Shalom. Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah Barakathah for the brothers. Yahweh Shemal Lathabah Hashem Yahweh Shah for the sisters. This is Priest Officer Shadarak of the ISUPK, the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. This is the Wednesday night brotherhood class. I'm going to go ahead and get into some of the history of who Amalek is in the Bible. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to go to the book of Genesis, chapter 36 and verse 6. The book of Genesis, chapter 6 and verse 6. We're going to go with that because we need to know who is Amalek? Who is this guy? You know, Amalek is a male, of course, and he's in Genesis 36 and 6. Give me a chance to pull it up. All right. So now it reads, and Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and all his beasts and all his substance which he had got in the land of Canaan. Now Esau, for the back on that, Esau is Jacob's brother. Esau is Jacob's brother, and he basically lost his birthright. He refused the birthright. He despised the birthright that was given to the people, the children of Israel, in the Bible for the Most High, so that they could worship the Most High and do according to the blessings that he would give to whoever holds this birthright. Okay, let's see what Esau thought about this. Let's see who Amalek is. Amalek is, I'm gonna give you the backdrop that Amalek is actually Esau's son, one of his sons. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna drop down from that. Let's see. Drop down to, let's see, Anah, Timnah. Here we go, to verse 12. And Timnah was a concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son. Okay. She bare Eliphaz Amalek. So this was a concubine of Eliphaz. Eliphaz was another one of Esau's sons. Esau had several sons, and you can trace the Caucasian descendants, or put it this way, ancestors, through the Bible. A lot of times you hear in church, you won't hear who is who that begat who, or who actually the Ammonites are, which is African, or Philistines are, which is African. You won't hear who is that? The Arabs, they're Ishmael. You won't hear that. They want to actually tell you who the tribes are in the Bible. All right. Okay, so bear with me. I'm kind of going on a backlash of this technology we have here, but I'm glad I could see. Kana, Yahweh, Shalom, sis, Yahweh Shemala, Thaba, Hashem Yahweh Shah. All right. Welcome. All right. From Delaware. All right. We're from over there in Delaware. All right. So Amalek is one of Esau's sons. Okay. And here it is again. I'm going to read it. We're in Genesis 36 and 12. And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare Eliphaz Amalek. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. See, now Esau had how would you say it? They were heathens. They were heathens. In other words, they weren't part of Israel. They weren't the chosen ones, the chosen 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob was the one that had the 12 sons, and they were chosen by God to be his people, which that's where we come from as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Okay, so right there you could see that was Adah. She was a heathen, and that was Esau's wife. See, Esau, he really frustrated and really dismayed his parents, which was Jacob's father, who was Isaac. Isaac and his rib were dismayed when Esau, their son, went over to the heathens of the other tribes and married, because the custom in Israel is that you're supposed to marry your kinsman or your kin. I mean, not your kin. Yeah, your kinsman or your kinswoman. All right. The man or woman can get married to man or woman. Not man or man or woman on woman. No, not no LGBTQ, nothing like that. But it's a custom to marry of your own race or tribe. Okay. So that's what it was. How would you say it? That was designated in Israel to be a law. Okay, that's part of our laws and the customs, and that's what we should stick to today as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We got beautiful women in our tribes, Black, Hispanic, and so-called Native Indians. Okay, but Esau, he went off, he went on a deep end on the other side because he actually despised that birthright and did what he wanted to do. Okay, so Amalek was one of his children. Okay, uh, I guess young JJ 158. Shalom, Yabashana Shabarakatha, brother from Southern California. Welcome. All right. Oh, this trooper Yarama. Shalom, brother. Shalom. Glad you tuned in. Okay, so now that you see who Amalek is, he is one of the progenitors or father of the so-called Jews, the ones that say that they're Jews and are not. Okay, so we're going to take a quick, let's see, we're going to go over to Revelation. I'm going to go over to Revelation real quick to tell you because, as Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, we don't know a lot about our history, that the things about our history that we should know according to the Bible. All right. You know, especially uh so-called Negroes and colored folks and Black folks, same people. But we were just called everything. They still trying to find an identity for us today. Are we the indigenous of America and all that stuff, this and that, you know? So it's hard for us to trace it because of slavery, of course. All right. I believe this is Revelation 2 and 9. Might be Revelation. Let's see. Yeah. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 2 and verse 9. I know the works and tribulation and poverty. Salaki, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. The Lord meant that we were rich in spirit. He knew we poverty. We know we didn't have no money. We still don't have no money today. We're looking for reparations as so-called Negroes or whatever. We don't get no reparations. The barrio is still poor as hell. The reservation is still poor as hell. All right. And so is the ghetto. Okay. But the Lord said, I know thy poverty, but thou art rich. We're rich in spirit because we're good natured people. Normally, we're good natured people. Straight up, good natured people. We treat people good when we really want to be that way because it's in us to do that. Because we're set aside as the one who God chose, the people who God chose, Black, Hispanic, Native Indian. All right. So, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not. So when you look in the earth and here in the earth, you'll see them small hat folks, like we like to call them here in our SUPK, the ones that wear the yarmulkes on their head, acting like their head is uncovered. Their head is not uncovered. The proof of an uncovered head is mine right here. It's uncovered at the top, but covered here. Okay. So that's Amalek. He say he a Jew, but he's not, he's not. All right. So that's who Amalek is according to the Bible. Now you're going to see, let's go to verse 43 down to drop. We're still in 36. We're going to go down to 43. And This is after he speaks about the dukes. They called the duke. They were called dukes. Some of them were called dukes. Well, they were called dukes because verse 40 says, because it's I'm go up a little bit. It says, and these are the names of the dukes that came of Esau. The dukes that came of Esau, the sons that came of Esau were called dukes. You don't hear dukes in the black community. You don't hear dukes in the Hispanic community. You don't hear dukes in the so-called Native Indian community either. No one was called dukes there. The only duke, like I said before, in some previous classes a little way back, the only dukes you hear is Duke Ellington. They called him a duke as a nickname. You know, he was a brother, but because he was a musician, they called him a duke. Okay, dukes and like kings and queens and all of that. That's a lot of that is from the heathen nations. Heathen nations have queens. We have princesses in Israel. If you're a sister and Black, Hispanic, Native Indian, you're a princess and not a queen. And a lot of people get that twisted because the Bible, the America's against the Bible anyway. So uh it says, and these are the names of the dukes that came of Esau according to their families, after their places, by their names: Duke Timnah, Duke Alva, Duke Japheth, Duke verse 41, Duke Ahilabama, Duke Elah, Duke Pinan, 42, Duke Kenaz. Now pay attention. Kenaz is short for Ashkenaz. Ashkenazi Jews. Some of y'all might have heard that before. Ashkenazi Jew. That's Kenaz. Those are his children. Okay. And they're all part of Esau. Okay. They're all part of the white community, the so-called white community. Okay. And they're always trying to separate themselves. If you notice, Caucasian folks always try to separate themselves from the so-called Jews, the Amaleks, because of their parasitical ways and the way they are and their religion or whatever. But really, they're the same. They're the same race, Caucasian, but the same people, sons of Esau. So that's Kenaz, like the Ashkenazi Jew. That's in verse 42. Then you see Duke Teman. Also, when you hear the word Teman, when you hear the name Teman, when you look it up, that's from the German clans. That's from German. Those are German people. Okay. Teman. Okay. Duke Mibzar. And then verse 43 says Duke Magdiel, Duke Aram. These be the dukes of Edom. See, Edom, because Esau is Edom. These be the dukes of Edom. Okay. All right. Shalom. Yahabashem Yahushua Barakatah. Priest Karatazah. All right, brother. Shalom. Welcome. So Esau, wait, of Edom, according to the habitations in the land of their possession. He is Esau, the father of the Edomites. So Caucasian people who are truly Caucasian, they're actually Caucasian, they're Edomites. That's their biblical name. See, and of the biblical name of the sons, you have Amalek, and Amalek is the fake Jew. That's the one that wears the shylocks on the sides of his head and the big black those Russian hats, those big round Russian hats, and then them other hats that had the brims on them, the big old brim hats, those black brim hats, and then the yarmulke, little short, small hats. That's who they are. They're impersonating us, and they're going to pay for that. They are impersonating the true children of Israel who are stuck in the captivity of America, who is us, Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. So these are who Amalek, this is who Amalek is. However, I'm gonna go to First Chronicles, verse 1 and 36. See, one thing that that is true in the Bible, Amalek, discomfited, always pursued the Israelites. When we fled from Egypt, away from the Pharaoh who already had us in slavery, Amalek chased after us and tried to kill and killed off some of our younger, older, the older people of the tribe, and the weaker of the tribe would be in the back. And we were in the front trying to get to that daggone Red Sea. And when we were fleeing, they came up behind us and made sure that they killed off some of us. They tried to kill us all off. And we had wars with Amalek. Okay. So I'm gonna go to First Chronicles and verse chapter 1 and verse 36. The sons of Eliphaz, Teman and Omar, Zephi and Gatam, Kenaz and Timnah and Amalek. Now that's stated again there in that verse if you need to find it. Do some research on that. Go to Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 17 and verse 8. Exodus 17 and verse 8. Okay. Then came Amalek, okay, and fought with Israel. You see, then came Amalek and fought with Israel. So we got an ancient history with them fake Jews. We was at war with them at this time, right here in the book of Exodus. Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. See, in verse 9, and Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men and go out and fight with Amalek tomorrow. I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. Okay. And so verse 10, so Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Verse 11, and it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. So they prevailed in the battle. When Moses held up that staff and held up his hand, okay, the Israelites was winning in the battle against Amalek. Oh, Shalom, Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shah, Barakatah, Trooper Shalat, welcome. Checking in. Southern Cali is there, is here checking in. That's great, man. All right. And okay, he held up his hand. Amalek prevailed. Verse 12. But Moses' hands were heavy, and because Moses was old by this time, he had already got us away from the Pharaoh, out of Egypt. But he was old. So it's hard for a long time for an old man to hold his hand up. All right. His hands was heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him. Okay. And he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hand. So Aaron and Hur were on probably either side of him, both sides. That's what I meant by either. And they were holding his hand up so he could keep his hand up. So we could find favor. We could start winning. Continue winning in this battle. Okay. He stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. See, verse 14, and the Lord said to Moses, write this for a memorial in a book and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. See, that's the fate. That's going to be the fate of the Caucasians. Okay. Olivia Arnold, Yahweh Shalom says, Yahweh Shemal Thaba Shem Yahweh Shai, Southern California, welcome. All right. So this is the reason why we're not to be joining with these other people on this earth like that. We can only do business as Israelites. We should only do business with them. We should not join them. We should always join each other. We should stay together. Black and brown is supposed to be uniting, man, and not being against each other, because we are the same people. Okay. So the Lord said he is going to put out the remembrance of Amalek from under the sun for the things that they're doing. They've done to the children of Israel. Understand? And that they continue doing. They're doing it here with the banks now, with interest, charging all this high interest. They taking all the Section 8 out in New York. They taking all the out of they're taking the Section 8 in Brooklyn, New York. They've there was an article on that. They're also in the showbiz industry, always showing these killings, brothers killing brothers on TV, and our sisters being 304s and all of that, and thoughts or whatever, showing all that, they glorifying us killing each other, trying to make sure that we keep that in our mind and our head to do each other wrong, while they laughing all the way to the bank. You understand? They own them banks. They cornered the media, and they also lawyers. And, everywhere you look, they got their hand in it. They got their hand in everything. They're very parasitical people, parasites, man. They parasitical. So he said he will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. All right. Now let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 24 and verse 20. The book of Numbers, chapter 24 and verse 20. All right. And when he looked upon Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but the latter end shall be that he perish forever. But the later end is that he's going to perish forever. So we won't be no longer inconvenienced and oppressed by this oppressor, this sneaky, crafty one who calls himself a Jew. Okay, so the Lord says so. As Amalek's people, well, and Amalek is descendants. He's going to put out their remembrance from under the earth, just as he's going to do with all of Esau and his people. Understand that? He's going to put them away. All right. He's not going to have them rule this earth anymore. We're not going to be under this oppression. We're not going to be rubbing two pennies together, trying to make a 50 cent. We're not going to be sitting up worrying about paying rent and then jumping to a job that abuses us and works us to death. Understand? We will invest and have our own land. We have our own cattle. We have our own crops. We have our own property. You understand? And we'll have the things that we were supposed to have from the beginning, because we will be serving the Lord in his kingdom. Understand? Rebuilding the earth. Okay? Because Amalek helped destroy this earth. He has destroyed this earth. You see it in the food. Insects don't even want to go near no damn food. They look at the food and be like, what the hell is this? You understand? I remember in my time where they drop food, you see all kind of ants and stuff on it. But now it's like, damn, they be like, what the hell is that? There's supposed to be something, but it's so many chemicals inside of it. It's just tearing everything up, man. It's just tearing your whole body up. Okay. So that's in Numbers. That's in the book of Numbers. So we was in verse 20. He said that the latter end shall be that he perish forever, because he needs to perish. He needs to perish, man. We got to stop suffering. We need to stop suffering from underneath this system, man. This system is about slavery, man. It's about them getting up over you and pushing you all the way down. Now let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 25 and verse 17 through 19. Deuteronomy 25, chapter 17, verse 17. Okay. It says, remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when ye came forth out of Egypt. See, remember what Amalek did when you came forth out of Egypt, when our people was suffering already under the Pharaoh, making brick out of with no straw in it. and making all these treasure houses for the Pharaoh of Egypt, that African. Because black people, we're not African people. You understand? Just because your skin is melanated don't mean that you are so-called the so-called black or African American, whatever they calling us these days, boy. So it's terrible. They're not trying to tell us who we are because they know. The ones that know that we're really Judah. We're Yahwadah in the Hebrew, the tribe of Judah. That's who we are. And if your parents have been in slavery, in the transatlantic slave trade, okay? So here we go. We had 17. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when ye came, Salaki, when ye were come forth out of Egypt. Verse 18, how he met thee by the way. So he met us coming up out of Egypt and smote the hindmost of thee. The hind is the back. I remember, you know what the hind is on an animal, that's his back legs. My mom is from the South. She used to say, I'm gonna whoop your hind parts. Something like that. I'm gonna whoop your hind parts. I remember that as a kid. All right. So how he met thee by the way and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee. See, all that was sick and old, he went back there like a coward. Understand, and smoked them because he knew the warriors was in the front. Okay, the strongest were in the front. Okay. When thou was faint and weary, and he feared not God. See, he feared not God because it was in him, just like his father Esau, who despised the birthright when him and his brother Jacob were younger. When they would, when they came out the womb, when they were younger, when they were getting their, getting blessed by Isaac. When Isaac said what was going to be, what was going to be before them, according to the Bible, according to the birthright, the promises. Okay, not the covenant, but the birthright. Okay. Verse 19. Therefore it shall be when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, because Israel always had enemies all around. Israel was surrounded with heathens. Israelites back in our land, in Israel, we were surrounded by heathens. Okay, we were surrounded by Edomites, Africans, surrounded by Arabs, Ishmaelites, who are Ishmaelites. Okay, so it says thee, therefore it shall be when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about in the land which in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it. Okay. So, that's showing right there also that, the Lord is going to definitely blot out the Amalekites. Amalek. See, when you put ites behind the name, like Israelites, ites means sons of. Okay, so the Amalekites are what you see now in showbiz, in the rap industry, in the banking systems, in the lawyer systems. Okay, you see them all over there. Okay, they're the ones, the so-called Jews, the Yiddish people, which are European. They are not children of Israel, but they're the imposter that Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9 speaks of. They're going to be blotted out from under, their remembrance shall be blotted out from under heaven. Okay, I'm paraphrasing that. Thou shalt not forget it. Okay, so that's another part that we should know about Amalek. Now, I'm gonna go into a little bit into some information that you should know also about the fake Jews. The first mafias were Jewish. First mafias in New York were Jewish. Okay. Um, oh wow. We're gonna go into let me so like give me 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead because I didn't have a book out here. Just give me a second. Okay, up in here. I just had to go get the book. We're gonna speak on this. I was just reading this. The This is a book I have. I usually refer to this book. It's called The Synagogue of Satan. As you can see, it has a black Dawadama gun on it, but it has blood dripping from the Dawadama gun. This book was written to show the evil works of these Amalekites. Okay. Like I said, the first mafiosos were Jewish. Okay. Right here. This is page 125. I'm gonna go page 125. So hold on, give me a second. Okay. Now it says the definition of super mob. A super mob. The Amalekites are known as a super mob here in America. Those are the Jews that you be looking at with the shylots eating the damn gefilte fish and the matzahs and all of that and the matzah soup. These are their people. Okay. The definition of a super mob was first coined by Walter Sheridan, who had worked as a federal investigator, Senate aide, author, and media correspondent. He defined super mob as, here's his definition of what a super mob is. Not a mob, but a super mob. And I'm not talking about a gang, a street gang. We're talking mafioso. We're talking mafia. A group of men from the Midwest, often Russian Jewish heritage, who made fortunes in the 20th century American West in collusion with notorious members of organized crime. Okay. They came from the Russian mandated Jewish ghetto, okay, known as the Pale of Settlement, immigrating first to Chicago, then following the money to Las Vegas and California. Okay. Known as the kosher nostra. See, this is one of the points I had wanted to bring up so those of you who know I did a lecture, these are those who I wanted to bring this point up. I had so much information, I didn't get a chance to do it. So I'm going to do another lecture, going in depth on this. Shalom, Kapah, Shalom, sis. Shahal Shamal Lataba Shem Shah. Welcome, sis. All right. So, known as the kosher nostra. They directly influenced the movies we watched. See, I was speaking of the movies, the media, You know who controls it. You know who control the rappers. You know who they own the streets. That these gangs, these little so-called African American gangs, Bloods, Crips, whatever, fight over and die over. They own that damn street. They make money on that street. Okay, on those streets. They own it because they charge you rent. Okay. Uh, they directly influence the movies we watched and music we listened to. Like right now on TV, I was sitting there watching before this class. Belly is on with DMX and Nas. All right, that's showing criminal. Showing us killing each other again. Showing our sisters looking like whores and all of that. All right, the music we listen to. The politicians we voted for. Okay, and the hotels and resorts we frequented, with the hotels and resorts we went to. Okay, it is the testament to their genius that most Americans have never heard of them. Most of y'all never heard that the Jewish mafia. You thought it was just a Italian mafia. Well, I'm here to tell you it was the Jewish mafia first, and then there was the Irish mafia, and then there was the Italian mafia. The Italian mafia was the last to be on the scene to be known as mafia. Okay, it was the Jews that started this. Okay, let me see. Give me a second here. Go, and I'm gonna go into a little more depth of who these people are, because we really need to know, what's their intent, what's their motive, who are they as they take advantage of us and make that filthy lucre, that filthy money that they've always been making. Okay, so let's see. I got some of my other things here. Okay, there's that. So, give me a second. Bear with me. Bear with me right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go to page 124. 124 in this book. All right. So just at 125, and I'm gonna go to 124. All right. So here we go. Okay. As he moves onwards and upwards in crime. Okay, let me go to 123, because that's probably where it is. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. This is page 123 of the book Synagogue of Satan. All right. On July 4th, Jew supermob, and I repeat, Jew supermob. So he's an Amalekite. He's Amalek. Okay. Jew supermob boss, Meyer Lansky. Some of y'all heard his name on TV, Meyer Lansky, when you watch the crime movies. All right. Like, I believe Once Upon a Time in America and the movie Casino, which I'm going to review before I do my next lecture. I'm going to review Casino, those movies. I believe Meyer Lansky was mentioned and portrayed in these movies. Definitely portrayed in these movies. Okay. The Jew supermob boss Meyer Lansky is born on July 4th in 1902. Okay. Meyer Shutajansky in Grodno, Russia, now Belarus. He arrives in Manhattan in 1911. So he was 9 years old when he came to New York. Okay. In 1918, he goes on to run his own gang that specializes in murder, kidnapping, and hiring out of muscle to both sides of the labor disputes, the capitalists and the workers. Devious. As he moves onwards and upwards in the crime world, he makes the association of Jewish New York crime lord. Arnold Rothstein. Arnold Rothstein was a Jewish crime lord in New York. Okay, as a bar mitzvah, and subsequently goes into both bootlegging and heroin trafficking. Oh yeah, he was on it. Okay, he was on it, and he definitely, he started these mobs, these mafiosos, the Jewish mafias, their engagements and all of what they've done to extort businesses, people, and everything. Okay. Right. See, he put the hit on Bugsy Siegel. Of course he did, Shalad. Exactly. Because that's what I was getting to. I'm looking in my notes. I was looking at it. It mentions Bugsy Siegel. I didn't want to, yeah, right there. Bugsy Siegel, born in he was born, Bugsy Siegel he was born in Brooklyn, New York. You would say he was my homeboy, but he's not my homeboy because he's a devil. He's a Caucasian. He's an Amalekite. Okay. Bugsy Siegel is born, and I'm reading from page 128. Bugsy Siegelbaum, that was his name. All right. And his family moved from Kiev in Russia. They moved from Kiev, now called the Ukraine. He was Ukrainian. Okay. He became the favorite of Lansky. He was Meyer Lansky's favorite at first. In 1936, he's sent by Lansky on a mission to Los Angeles to take control of California's $500,000 day bookmaking operation, which included gambling bouts that were anchored just off the coast. Okay, so this was just the beginning of what the 1930s heroin trade, being worth over $1 billion a year, and on the onset of the Second World War, disrupting the European and Japanese supply routes. Siegel proves himself by setting up a new connection through Mexico, okay, from which he involved himself in the smuggling. Following his expansion into the supply routes of many major cities: Havana, Mexico City, Miami, Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, and the Federal Business Slaki and the Federal Bureau of Narcotics identifies Siegel as one of the world's biggest dope ring operators. See, one of the world's biggest dope fiend operations. And he did it all through Lansky. He was deputized by Lansky to be this. That's the definition. That's a super mob. That's the super mob. So when you out here, even out here slinging keys, you ain't slinging as much keys as they slinging. They slinging pallets. They slinging shiploads of this stuff. All right. The neighborhood pusher ain't nothing compared to Lansky and Siegel, Bugsy Siegel. Nothing compared to them. I'm looking on my notes because I did a whole breakdown of this, but I didn't get a chance, because of time's sake. Back when I did my lecture in Nevada, I didn't get a chance to do it. That's why I'm going to do some more parts on this. And yes, Shalad, you was right, because he put a hit on him. I believe it was the Flamingo. They named in Las Vegas. They named one of the hotels the Flamingo after Bugsy Siegel named it after his girlfriend because she had long legs. Okay. So, yeah, obsession with his girlfriend. Fronting for Lansky, he buys several existing Las Vegas casinos, and as he expands, one of his underlings informs him of a desire to go into politics, to which Siegel replies, "We do not run for office, we own the politicians." They don't run for office, they own the politicians. They always sitting at the end of the table. There was one of the gangster movies where they came on and the mob came in And he said, and he said it out his mouth. We always end up at the same end of the table. You know, in other words, they always in the same. They in the same car. Okay. Siegel's downfall begins in 1946. I'm reading this for you, Shalot, of course, and for the class. You know, he begins his downfall in 1946 when he is distracted by the obsession he has for his girlfriend, Virginia Hill. That was her name, and subsequently loses control of the budget budgetary uh, constraints for his latest venture, the building of a casino of on behalf of Lansky. They were building a casino at this time, all right, which he named the Flamingo, his nickname for Hill on account of her long legs, her long, skinny legs. Lansky sends Mo Dalitz. And that's another one. Mo Dalitz was another gangster. He sends Mo Dalitz to spy on Lansky. Oh, okay. And when Dalitz reports back that Siegel has been stealing from Lansky, his fate was sealed and he is shot through the head as he lay on Virginia Hill's sofa, okay, in her Beverly Hills home. Okay, he put the hit on him, right? Yeah, Shalad, that's exactly you was exactly right. You know, and this is the operations and the behavior and attitudes of those real gangsters in New York, the ones that take the whole business home, not the ones who get the little crumbs. You know, the real gangsters. You know, we always saying this gangster as a people. No, no, no. I mean, you stealing businesses. You going into businesses and telling them, and you hiring muscle to protect them. You extorting them with money. That's gangster. Okay, we been getting it twisted as a people so long. It's a damn shame. We're at the bottom of that. The very bottom of that. That's nothing. You're making a few crumbs, handing the cookie jar crumbs. Like they say, there's blue collar workers and there's white collar workers. The blue collar workers are your construction workers, your cooks, your chefs, your plumbers, your linemen. Okay, the white collar workers are the ones that are as your boss, the supervisors, the CEOs, the what do they call them? The financial officers, or the CPOs. Those are the ones making the real money. Okay, yeah. So back to Lansky, yeah, Lansky's control of Las Vegas did not end at Las Vegas. When in 1947, he even helped elect Miguel Alemán Valdez, the president of Mexico, by paying for his campaign on the basis that he makes sure not to legalize gambling in Mexico. He made sure not to legalize gambling in Mexico. He wanted them to come to Las Vegas, come up a little bit, come to Las Vegas. Yeah. What you say, Shalad, it's a shame knowing about the mafia and knew nothing about being an Israelite. Right. And knowing nothing about being an Israelite. It is a damn shame. You know things about the mafia, but you don't know about who you are. You don't know who you are. You don't know if you're Mexican, you from the tribe of Issachar in the Bible. You don't know if you are Native Indian that you are the tribe of Gad in the Bible. You don't know if you're Panamanian that you from the tribe of Zebulon from the Bible. You know, you don't know if you're Puerto Rican, you from the tribe of Ephraim in the Bible. But you know about the gangsters. You watch all the movies. I mean, I know I stand guilty of it too until I came into this truth. You know, into learning from the priests that are above me, the men above me, General Yohana. All right, starting with him. You know, learning about myself that I'm one of the children of Israel. I come from that bloodline. Okay. So it is a damn shame, Shalot. It sure is. All right. Now I was in the beginning of my Lansky, the supermob guy. Now he arrives in Manhattan 1911. He goes to kidnapping. In 1918, he goes on. This is Meyer Lansky, to Salaki. He goes on to run his own gang and specializes in murder. Okay, I read that murder, muscling on both sides, and all of that. Now I'm gonna go to page. I was on page 123. Go to page 124, real quick. As he moves onwards and upwards, okay, we read that. Arnold Rothstein was the New York crime lord, the Jewish New York crime lord. You know, at a bar mitzvah, and subsequently goes into bootlegging and heroin trafficking. Okay, we read that. Uh, let's go in here, because that's building up a city, right? Las Vegas is a city. That's building up a city. Let's see what the Bible says about this. What does the Bible say about this? So we're going to go to Habakkuk 2 and 12. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 12. Second here. Go on into it. Let's see what it says about that. What does the Bible say about it? Okay. Let's go down. Book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 12. Woe! Woe! Woe means destruction. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood. So Meyer Lansky built this town, Las Vegas, with blood. And I'm sure a lot of y'all heard of the bodies that they buried along the way. When you go into Vegas and you look from side to side, there's people buried in that land. The mafia buried a lot of them, killed a lot of them on coming from Vegas. Okay, killed a lot of them and buried them in the desert. That was that the Mojave Desert, Valley of the Death Valley. Okay, a lot of them were killed and buried in that desert. Mafia hits. Okay, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establish a city by iniquity. You establish a city with sins. You know, you establish a city with all kinds of wickedness going on. You got a gang of prostitution, a lot of drug dealings. You got a lot of shady deals in Vegas. Because what's the saying? What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. A lot of women go out there to cheat on their husbands. A lot of husbands go out there to cheat on their wives. They go to Vegas, get a room, go down to the casino, knock her out, go back down to the casino. You understand? Gamble their money away. All kind of shady things going on out there, man. Understand? It says, woe unto him that builds a city with blood. And Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, and many more have done this, and especially in America. Woe unto America, who built these cities with the blood of the slaves, the blood of the Mexicans, the bloods of the so-called African Americans, and the so-called Native Indians. Understand? Yes, that's right. That's why they call it Sin City. Sin City, perfectly named. And thank General Yohana for priests like Shalimar, Officer Shalimar, or is going to build Vegas up. He's going to call it Saint City. And that's his words. He said he's going to change it from Sin City to Saint City. Shout out to the Officer Shalimar. All right. And yes, it needs to be changed because Israel is out there. Our brothers and sisters are out there because there is a ISUPK, Las Vegas. All right. So, let me see what else it says here. He also discovers money available in prostitution and gambling when he branches out into illegal casinos, which back then were called carpet joints. They used to call them carpet joints. And in 1931, acquires stakes in the Golden Casino and the Bank Club in Reno. Shortly after Nevada legalizes gambling, interestingly, just as prohibition was coming to an end. get you drunk, and make you gamble. Prohibition is over. You could do it all in Vegas. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. Prohibition was coming to an end. That's why in one of the movies, that was dang on, what was I watching? I was watching Once Upon a Time in America, and they had a it's a known movie right there. Uh, they had a what do you call that thing when you die? They have a casket, right? So they had the casket with these lamps on the these candles on the casket, and on the side of the casket it read "Death to Prohibition." They were celebrating the end of prohibition. That was in the gangster movies. See, that's what Hollywood knows what's going on. They show you, they give you a little bit. They hoping to God you're not trying to research it because you're gonna dig up a whole lot of skeletons like I did. You understand? You're gonna dig up a whole lot of skeletons on what these Edomites, what Amalek is doing and has done. Understand? That's why the Lord said he's going to erase his remembrance from under heaven. Now, these are my notes. I have a whole lot here for the Jewish mods. That's what I was looking for. I know it's got buried in my paperwork, so I found it. I'm just going to hit on that. That's 123, 124. I went through this book and dug out a lot of the supermob stuff. They also I was just reading about the sexual, yeah, deviance of some of the people in the mob, a person in the mob. You know, Esau has a terrible sexual deviance, man. Immoral, abnormal, and disgusting. Okay, disgusting. He's a dope ring operator. I was reading 128 and 29. Okay. Watch this. This is paragraph 3 on page 124. It says, there's no such thing as a lucky gambler. So when you go, no, not the Untouchables. It was Once Upon a Time in America. And then, if I'm correct, it was Casino. Of course, it was Casino. It had to be. I'm going to be watching that tonight. That was with Joe Pesci and uh, uh, who's that? Who's that guy that everybody likes so much? He's a good actor too. Yeah, I forget his name. A very good actor. He was the main one that owned the casino. Uh, and Untouchables, that was out of Chicago. That movie that was out of Chicago when they got Al Capone, who came from Brooklyn too, out to when he moved to Chicago and he joined started the South Side Gang, I believe. And they gunned them down. There was another movie also, an older black and white movie that I remember. It was called St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Right, Robert De Niro. Thank you, because on the ton of my chin, I'm getting old. Robert De Niro, exactly. They showed Robert De Niro was the head of the casino, so I believe he might have played Lansky, was playing Lansky, and I know Joe Pesci was playing Bugsy Siegel. It should be. Don't give me the line, but I believe that's who they were portraying. Cause I'm almost sure that they were playing Joe Pesci as Bugsy Siegel. Because they started fighting each other over the female, and that was what was her name? She played in The Quick and the Dead. Who was that one? She played in The Quick and the Dead. She the one, I think she was the first one that got her lips all thick like a sister's. Wanted her lips to be thick like a sister's. But anyway, I'm gonna go, if y'all can remember it, put it in, if you can put it in the chat. Uh yeah, she played The Quick and the Dead. Let me see. There's no lucky gambler. There there are just winners and losers. Sharon Stone, thank you, Shalak. So lucky. Sharon Stone, exactly. She played in the movie. That's who she played. She played Bugsy Siegel's girl. But first, she was Robert De Niro's girl in the beginning, and then she went to Joe Pesci, and that's what the fight was over. She went to Joe Pesci after that. because she didn't want to listen to Robert De Niro in the movie. Okay. So, kind of came out. This not wasn't the exact, but it was the exact story, but it came out that way in the movie. All right. There's no such thing as a lucky gambler. There are just winners and losers. The winners are those that control the game. See that? The winners control the game. It's controlled. That's why the first time I went to Vegas, I took $500 and I said, I know I'm going to lose all this, so I can stand losing this $500. Got me a red, a red sports car and 100 miles an hour straight to Vegas. That's around the time I had first met my baby mom and all that. But I went out there with 500 because I knew that it was rigged. It's rigged. And you can tell everybody knows it's rigged. So it says there's winners and losers. The winners are those that control the game. All the rest are suckers. All right. And also, the only man who wins is the boss. That's the only man who wins is the boss. This is what they do. That's what they do. They parasitical. They live off of your good fortune. What was allotted to you, they take it. They tax it. They want you to go to Vegas. You got so many problems. You want to go and have a vacation. You take it in Vegas and spend up all your money. Some people had gambling problems. Go to Gamblers Anonymous behind it. Just like Alcohol Anonymous, they go to Gamblers Anonymous. Just like Cocaine Anonymous, they go to Gamblers Anonymous. Just like Narcotics Anonymous, they go to Gamblers Anonymous. Okay, so you get in there and they just take your money, man. They take your stuff. They make sure you keep betting and betting. You sit and buy a whole bunch of coins, get a whole bucket of coins, and sit there with your drink. They make sure that there's plenty of alcohol, and then you put money in the slots. You play the blackjack. You play the Russian roulette. Sometimes you win. You got to know when to get up. Because they sure scoping you. And some win big, yeah. And they do that just to keep you going on because it makes you think that you can win too. Oh, they got a whole pot of money. So let me go to Vegas and do some gambling. Hey, same thing with the lottery. Just like the lottery. Okay? Give you that illusion that you can win like that. But winners are few and far between when it comes to Vegas and the lottery and all of that. And this is how it started on super mob crime of the descendants of Amalek in the Bible, the sons of Esau, who despised his birthright in the Bible. He was against God, the ones who attacked the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. When they came out of Egypt and smoked the hind part of the Israelites coming out, the sick and the elderly, and went to war with Israel when Moses held up the staff with Joshua and Hur. All right. That's what happened. So we seeing the results. And in the earth, let's go to the book of, it brings me to the mind of this other one. It's the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. The book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24. All right. And it reads, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So when they start whitewashing, they whitewashed the pictures. They did that and turned it from black to white paint. They gave you the blue-eyed, blonde hair, effeminate LGBTQ Christ. Everybody had a picture. In church, you go to church, you see the white Jesus. You come in black people's houses, you see the white Jesus. You go to a white person's house, you see the white Jesus. all over the place. And us unknowingly and not doing the research, we don't know that that's Caesar Borgia, the homosexual, the LGBTQ lover of Michelangelo, the painter. Michelangelo and Caesar Borgia were lovers. Michelangelo painted Caesar Borgia and gave him long hair and put it on as the image of Christ. And we sit up believing it, not questioning. It's always good to question. It's always good to question and ask many questions. You know, when I went to college, that's what they said. Search, research, research. College teaches you to research. They said, ask the questions, ask all the questions. Use your critical thinking. They had an English class on critical thinking. Okay. One of my classes was critical thinking. I believe that was English 101. Yeah, that was English 101 in college. Okay. Critical thinking. Okay. It's important that we do the research and ask those questions, man, because you'll still be, if it wasn't for me learning things like that, I would still be looking at the white Jesus saying, yeah, that's Jesus. That's Christ. Jesus, the blood of Jesus, and all that, like that Christian church teaches you, that Christian church deceives you in. So we have to come out of that. So now back to these super crimes, these super criminals, the super mob. There were Jewish ritual murders. Okay, that's on page 126 in here. Okay. But before I go to that, I'm gonna read 124 real quick. During the Second World War, Mylans bootlegs all manner of ration commodities and consumer goods, making vast profits, he making money hand over fist doing that. Okay, making vast profits. While he is doing this, amazingly, he is employed by the United States government to maintain labor peace between workers and their bosses. So they put a mob, they put a member of the leader of the super mob to be the labor peacemaker, to be a peacemaker between the workers and the bosses on the docks. You got a lot of people killed on the working docks, man. A lot of people got killed on them things. And I believe that's what that movie On the Waterfront. That's an old black and white movie also called On the Waterfront was based after. You know, those crimes. They had a lot of fights down there. The white folks was going at each other. Okay. On them those waterfronts, those water docks and stuff. Okay. Also in the 1940s, being a fanatical Zionist, he was a Zionist too. You didn't know Lansky was a Zionist. Lansky smuggles arms to the Jews in Palestine, a lifelong asset of Israeli intelligence as a result. Okay. So he's handing there, he was handing there with the Palestinian, I mean the Israelis too, when they were going to war with the Palestinians. He had a lot of influence in there. This is a lifelong asset of Israeli intelligence as a result of doing that. Okay. He shares a dream with his underling, Bugsy Siegel, another Jew. Okay. Which is to build a city devoted to gambling from where he could obtain untold wealth. Okay. He says, what I had in mind was to build the greatest, most luxurious hotel casino in the world and invite people from all over America. Okay. Maybe the high rollers from all over the world to come and spend their money there. See? So that's what Bugsy Siegel was about. That's what the son of Amalek, the Amalekite. That's what that Amalekite was doing. That's what he was about. He wanted people to come from all over the world, come to Vegas, spend all your money, rent a hotel, spend all your money, buy your prostitutes, buy your drugs, make your shady deals, whatever, in Vegas, so that we could get rich, that he could get rich. Okay. So let's see. Let's go to these ritual murders. See, but before we go to the ritual murders, we're going to go to John 8 and 44. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 8 and verse 44. Okay. Let's see. Ye are of your father the devil. That's who they are. You of your father the devil. This was Christ speaking. Understand? This was Christ speaking. You are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. Ye will do, Salaki. He was a murderer from the beginning. So that spirit of Cain is in the Caucasian, is in the Amalekite. You understand? They have that spirit of murder. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth. Okay? He was a murderer from the beginning. He didn't live in the truth. He didn't stay in the truthful things and be straight up with you. All right? Because there's no truth in him. That's why the Gadites, the so-called Native Indians, they call him, they say that the white man speaks with a forked tongue. Esau speaks with a forked tongue. He say one thing and means another thing. His tongue is split. So where you gonna get the truth from with somebody like that? There's no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. For he is a liar and the father of it. He's a liar and the father of it. And we know this. Look at your politicians. Vote for me, I'll set you free. Yeah, right. Okay. So there it is. Meyer Lansky did a whole lot. Okay. While some were put off the dried out desert wasteland of Nevada, Lansky saw it as a positive boon. He stated, once you got tourists there, after they have eaten and drunk all they could, there's only one thing left. Go to gambling. That's straight out of his mouth. Now I said ritualistic murders, right? All right. So give me a second here. Stepping Stone. This is like the second paragraph from the bottom on page 126. The year's edition of the Jewish Encyclopedia lists 122 accusations of ritual murders, okay, against the Jews through the centuries, with 39 of those in the previous century alone. Okay, many Jews over the centuries have been found guilty by many different courts in many countries of this evil satanic practice and put to death. But of course, now the Jews claim all of these legitimate convictions were just anti-Semitism. See, that's all they say it was. It's just you're just being anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic, towards me. And that's what they use. That's their go-to phrase. Once they get put under the spotlight, you being an anti-Semitist. Okay. That's how you see they're running it. If you've been watching TV lately, They're running it on these TV commercials. Every time I look at the commercial come across, it says, how do you feel when a Jewish boy is kicked in the back on the streets? How do you feel when something happens to a Jew? Because see, they're trying to build up a sympathy. They want you to feel sorry for them. They want you to feel like that's so terrible. They shouldn't do that. This, that, and the other. They're picking on the Jews again. No, the Jews been picking on the world. The fake Jews been picking on the world since time started. Okay? They've been picking on this world. They've been going against the Israelites. They've been going against the poor and the widow and the widower and what they call it, and the orphan. They've been going against people who can't speak up for themselves. You understand? That's what they've been doing. So, Jewish ritual murder generally consists of a ceremony presided over by a rabbi. Wow. In which a Christian child is crucified. They are tortured as cuts are made all over their bodies, allowing their blood to be drained while they are still alive. Wow, that sounds like what the Chinese do. What the Chinese say, death by 1,000 cuts? I was just watching that too on one of these movies. You know, the death by 1,000 cuts. Okay. What was that? That's crazy. You understand? They cut you up and let you just drain out. Like they said, we got that saying, you be leaking. You know, yeah, that is crazy work, Shalot. It's crazy. All right. While they're still alive and either drunk or placed into ceremonial unleavened bread for the Jews to consume on their holy days, such as Passover or Purim. Damn. That's why the Lord said, I will make you a synagogue of Satan. That's why he said that in Revelation 2:9. Those who say they are Jews, but are not, I will make them a synagogue of Satan. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's what the name, that's actually the name of this book, The Synagogue of Satan by Andrew Carrington Hitchcock. Okay. Crazy work, for real. That's right, Shalot. Definitely. They are mad. So they take this blood and they drink this blood, or they put it into ceremonial unleavened bread. Whew. Man, I wonder if it's in their damn matzahs. Damn. That's crazy work right there. Word. As the century develops, although we will see many major events in wars happen around Purim, accusations of Jewish ritual murder definitely diminish, which, while this is probably helped by this control of the media, see, that's why they say, how do you feel when you learn that a little Jewish boy is kicked? Okay, and I'm not saying go out there and kick a little Jewish boy, okay? I'm not saying nothing like that. But what I'm saying is look at their deeds. Look at their works. Look at what they do. Look at what God says about them. Don't they deserve to be utterly blotted out from under heaven? Yes, they deserve that. That supports that. You understand? Matter of fact, some of us, a lot of us know they insured the boats for the transatlantic slave trade. They were the ones who insured those boats. They were the masterminds behind taking the children of Israel from Africa, from West Africa, and bringing them to America and making them work on plantations. They were the ones. Okay. As a result, let's see, which, while this probably helped by their control of the media, is largely a result of them being keener to engineer large-scale wars in which the blood of millions of Christians is on their hands rather than the odds of one or two in their Kabbalistic satanic ceremonies. Now I went in, Salaki. Now I went into the Kabbalah a little bit during my lecture. I didn't go in as much as I should have because I was going into the Rosicrucians and the Illuminatis and the Freemasons and all of that. And I didn't even dig enough into there because it's a lot more wealth of information, that I've pulled out of these books. Satanic ceremonies, the Kabbalah. Wow. It is of some concern, however, that thousands of white children go missing in the United States each year. Children be missing. You know what I mean? In the United States each year, only to be irresponsibly dismissed by the authorities as runaways. Oh, they're just runaways. Despite the fact that many of them are never seen again. Interestingly, when the Jews were expelled from England in 1290, damn, that's a long time ago, 1290, and we're what, in 2026 now? In 1290, and Spain in 1492, on both occasions in the same year, many Jews had been found guilty by the courts in those respective countries of Jewish ritual murders. You understand? Jewish ritual murders. Okay. So we need to look at that. Okay. Shalom, Michelle M. All right, welcome to the class. All right. So we need to look at that. That's rich. Those are ritualistic murders right there. And then, they let alone they part of the mob, part of, the Jewish mob. See, that's who we need to look at. And knowing their real name in the Bible, which is Amalek, as I'm gonna continue to always say, is Amalek, and knowing what the Lord said that He's gonna block them off the face of the earth. Okay, we need to be very wary of who we deal with and know who we deal with, and because they know all about us, they know all about you. All right, we need to know about them. There's a saying, keep my enemies closer. Something like that. Keep my enemies close. Know your enemies. Know who they are. The way you're going to know it is to be in these, keep going to these classes. Keep coming to these classes because we teach the truth in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under the commanding General Yohana, coming from 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Okay? We know the truth. And it's important to stay in this truth because you're hearing a whole lot about these fake Israelite groups out here. You got Sakari, GMS, you got these new folks, what is it, Joshua or something or whatever. But anyway, they're not telling you the truth. Truth is up in here. It's up in these classes, in these schools, the schools of the ISUPK, right? So anyway, that's what's going on with these ritualistic murders. Okay, now let's look at the book of Judges, chapter 3 and verse 12. The book of Judges, chapter 3 and verse 12. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab. Wait, where am I at? This might not be. The king of Moab against Israel because they had done evil in the sight. Okay, here's 12, verse 13. All right, because Moab, if y'all don't know, is the Moab is the Chinese people. That's the tribe. Those are Chinese folks. All right. But verse 13 says, and he gathered unto him the children of Ammon. Ammon are Japanese people. Okay. And Amalek, who is the fake Jew. So Ammon and Amalek uh and went and smote Israel. See, they went against and killed some of Israel and possessed the city of palm trees. Okay. And see, that's what we gotta learn. Amalek was always at war with us. They were always at war with us. So don't uh trust that small hat. Don't trust them Jews, them ones who call themselves Jews. They are of the synagogue of Satan. Thus saith the Lord they are. Of course I'm paraphrasing, but this is one of the many books that I have, and it's very important that supports that information. You know, there's so much information on what's going on. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna go to page 266. I'm not gonna go into all of them. I'm gonna save some of this, but we'll go into it. Oh yeah, this was another movie. I don't know if any of y'all are like me and Trooper Shalat's age. I'm picking on you, brother, because the Valachi Papers. You ever heard of the Valachi Papers? It's a movie called the Valachi Papers. Okay, that's from way back in the 70s or the 50s. I remember this. This is another movie. Joseph Valachi, who is regarded as the original mafia informant. He's a mafia informant, snitch, whom the book and film, The Valachi Papers, was subsequently written, said to Gerald Schur, who was the creator of the U.S. government's Witness Protection Program. That's where the Witness Protection Program came in. Okay? If it wasn't for the Jews, there wouldn't be any organized crime. If it wasn't for the Jews, there wouldn't be no organized crime. Because the Jews finance organized crime. The Italians do what the Jews tell them to do. See? That goes back to some of these movies that they got in the media. They was telling on themselves, but they were sure you wouldn't know. See, the truth is gonna come to light. The truth is gonna come to light. No matter how much you put back, that truth got the sun gonna shine. No matter how much you put underneath there, and of course in this the man of was it the scripture says the man of perdition will be exposed. The man of sin will be exposed. He's being exposed all the time. He's being exposed, gonna be exposed big time, and the whole earth is really gonna know what's going down. You see what Trump is doing? Maybe he's the man of perdition. But soon we all gonna know exactly who the man of perdition is. The son of perdition. And we're gonna reject all of it. That's hopefully the time our people as Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians wake the heck up. And that'll be the time when we really know not to go into their stores, not to deal with their situations, not to trust them, not to believe what they're saying as the word of God. Okay? We need to come out. Like it says, come out of her, my people. Come out of her. Be not partakers of her sins. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. That's in the book of Revelation. Okay? So, let me finish on this Valachi guy, Joseph Valachi, from the movie Valachi Papers, the snitch. So now you know him as Valachi the snitch of the government witness protection program. And you know that if it wasn't for the Jews, you'll see that there wouldn't be no organized crime. When one looks at the history, what seems to have happened is a significant proportion of the initial influx of Jews into the United States an element of which the police commissioner General Bingham described in 1908 as compromising 50% of the criminals of New York City use their ill-gotten gains to send their children to the top universities. See, they sent them to the top universities. They got that ill-gotten money and they sent their kids to be lawyers and doctors, okay, and bankers. See, to become to top universities and colleges in order that they could become lawyers, corporate executives. That's that white collar crime I was talking about. I mean, they were white collar workers, okay, corporate executives and government employees. Thus, they made them covert, which means covert means secretive, made them covert to oppose to overt criminals, some of which will become government prosecutors, and in a complete about turn destroyed the mafia. And complete about turn destroyed the mafia in the 1990s as it was now rudderless, being left as it was to be run by Italians who did not know what they were doing, as they did not have the Jewishness of criminality behind them. So the Italians didn't know what they were doing, but the Jews knew exactly what they were doing. They send their kids to school to become them lawyers. They become straight big time lawyers, and they become government prosecutors, all working for the mob, all working for the Jews, the Israelis. All right. So that's the other part of it. Okay. So we know now why Christ said that. We know why he said, we know of your father who is a murderer. I'm paraphrasing that, of course. We just read that John 8:44, and was a liar from the beginning and abode not in the truth. And not only was he a liar, he was the father of it. Father of lies, man. Okay. So that's another one on there. And let's see. Let me go to page 272. Look at 272. Okay. This was oh wow, friend of the court. I remember this. I remember this story here. This is born. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at page 271 first. On September 6th, notorious Jewish criminal John Jacob Factor, aka Jake the Barber, is named Humanitarian of the Year by world by the World Jewish Congress, and is honored with a dinner at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Wow. He's the man of the year. Quite why he deserves such an accolade is unclear when one looks at his background. Born Ikov Faktorowicz in 1892 in Russia, the 10th child of a Polish rabbi. The whole family moved to Chicago in 1905. The first job, okay, so like his first job is as a barber. Probably that's why he obtained that nickname, which it says. However, this obviously did not pay the bills. And in 1919, he was indicted for multiple counts of stock and mail fraud. Okay. In one instance, relieving an elderly Florida woman of $280,000, which is worth $3.5 million today. Okay. His criminal star rising in 1923, he teamed up with New York Jewish crime lord Arnold Rothstein, whose brother was a rabbi, to sell worthless penny stocks in London, which eventually netted them $1.5 million, worth just under $20 million today. Factor fled England and was tried in his absence in 1930, receiving a sentence of 8 years hard labor. So they sent him, they sent him and tried him and all that. England sought Factor's extradition. They want to extradite him to the United States. But Factor managed to keep delaying this via a series of appeals. So he delayed being extradited. All right. Which he exhausted in 1933 when it reached the Supreme Court. His solution was to fake his own kidnapping, identify the alleged kidnapper, Roger Toohey, in court, which the corrupt head of the state's attorney office police labor detail, John Courtney, had fitted up as a favor, which convinced the court to allow Factor to remain in the United States as a friend of the court. Look at this. You're a friend of the court now. This friend of the court found his luck had finally run out when he was found guilty of a swindle in Iowa, which netted him $500,000, worth over $6.5 million today. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, and upon his release, managed the Jewish supermod's Stardust Hotel. That's in Vegas, ain't it? The Stardust Hotel. Interestingly, Factor was the brother of Max Factor. Y'all know Max Factor. That's that women's makeup company, who invented the everyday use of makeup for women and is regarded as the father of the cosmetic industry. His invention of the pancake makeup, which is initially used in Hollywood movies. Crazy work. As previously mentioned, they used vaudeville style grease paint that cracked very soon after its application. Max Factor Cosmetics are a brand leader today, albeit under the ownership of Procter and Gamble. Okay. That's crazy. That's crazy work. They have to rely on anti-Semitism. And also there is a psychological, I'm not going to go so much into it in this class, but there's a psychological thing that the fake Jew has to keep coming up with fake scenarios of him being persecuted. That's why that commercial was on, the little Jewish boy getting kicked. That's why they play on your sympathy. They play on your sympathy, yet behind it is an ulterior motive of wickedness and destruction, and what they call it, extortion, and coerce you in the going along with their little plan, their little evil plan, and swindling. Swindle that woman out of $280,000, which is worth millions today. Okay, that's who Amalek is. That's who he is today. So when you hear that name Amalek, you're going to immediately know that those are the small hats that ISUPK calls the small hats. You're going to immediately know that uh uh that these are the fake Jews. Okay. Oh, I don't know what you were saying, Shalak, when you said la'ah, you said no, but then you said yes. So maybe you saying yes or something, but it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. Okay. John Gotti of the Gambino family. Let's go to page 291. And I think I'm just going to roll with this one. It'll be my last out of this book. Let's go to 291 real quick in this book. Uh, let's see. Jewish criminal Mo Dalitz, known as the Godfather of Las Vegas, received the Torch of Liberty Award from the Anti-Defamation League in B'nai B'rith. He started his criminal career as the leader of Cleveland's Mayfield Road Gang, okay, which dealt in gambling and bootlegging. That's Mo Dalitz, okay. He attempted to legitimize ill-gotten gains when he moved to Las Vegas, taking control. This is page 292. Yeah, see, you heard about Mac, right? You heard about Max Factor, Shalat. That's right. Okay. He moved to Las Vegas. Of many, let's see, let me get back here. I kind of lost track of what I was reading here. Uh, taking control. He moved to Las Vegas, taking control of many Las Vegas casinos, the best known, which is probably the Desert Inn. So that was the Desert Inn that Mo Dallas took control of. When he was undergoing questioning on bootlegging from Estes Keffiger in 1950 at a California committee session, he retorted, if you people wouldn't have drunk it, I wouldn't have bootlegged it." He said, if you people wouldn't have drunk it, I wouldn't have bootlegged it. Dalitz was intimately involved with a woman named Sylvia Pagano, who was also having an affair with the Teamsters leader, Jimmy Hoffa. Right. See, that's what Hoffa, I was trying to say that. That's the other one, that movie Hoffa. That was, yeah, the Teamsters Union. The Teamsters leader, Jimmy Hoffa, he was having an affair with his girl. Interestingly, Hoffa awarded Dalitz 4 of his first 9 Teamsters Union loans, through which his Jewish lawyer, Morris Schenker, the reason Teamsters loans were popular is that they were backed by the vast wealth of the Teamsters pension fund and were offered an interest rates significantly lower than that offered by the banks. As a result, the Teamsters came to be regarded as the biggest lender in Las Vegas. Wow, that's deep. That is deep. So after this bootlegger, all these things came to pass. After this act of adultery, all these things came to pass. Okay, that's how they came up with that movie Hoffa, which I forget I forget who the actor of that is right now because I'm in the class, but that's where these things came from. That's where this organized crime. That's what this organized crime does. That's how they get in the power. That's how they get in position to make sure that you get relieved of your money, and then you get unalived. You know, that's how all this stuff. That's how this happened. I'm gonna go to 191. Said that was gonna be the last one, but I still see I got a little time. I'm going to page 191. Okay. Every non-Jewish baseball manager in the United States lives between 2 fears. They are both describable in biblical terms: the fear of the Jews. The first fear concerns what Jews are doing to baseball. The second fear concerns what the Jew would do to the manager if he complained about it. Hence, in spite of the fact that the rowdyism being real rowdy, like in the when you go to those games, they started all this rowdiness. Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one, Shalat, The Irishman. It was a great movie about Hoffa. The Irishman, that was just on TV too. And I didn't even look at it. I didn't know. I'm gonna check it out next time, Shalai, and I'll report back to you. So uh so they were, if you complained about it, they were scared about even complaining about it. Okay. Being a baseball manager. Hence, in spite of the fact that rowdyism has that ha- that has afflicted baseball, especially in the East, is all of Jewish origin. Being rowdy like that at the baseball games. Hey, get him out of there! And throwing beer bottles and and soda bottles and all kind of things at the players and everything, and at the umpire. All that started with the Jews. I used to live in a place called Ebbets Fields in Brooklyn. We lived on third base because they tore down Ebbets Fields and they put projects up. We lived on the 19th floor. Boy, that was scary. You could feel the building swaying in New York. Where that's what I remember, feeling that building swaying when the wind blows. So when you that high up, that's what happens when you live in them skyscrapers. Okay, and them tall buildings. But that's where they were. I mean, that's what the baseball fields, because the Dodgers, that's where the Dodgers used to play at Ebbets Fields. Okay. Nichelle, the class schedule every Wednesday at 7 p.m. It's usually at 7 p.m. Uh Also, we have Thursday class with the camp leader of California, Captain Gadahar, and Officer Tabawan. And I'm doing this is Thawar Gabar's class that I'm standing in for tonight. Okay. So I'm pitch hitting for him, like in baseball. So that's what it's usually. Classes start at 7 and they go through till 9 o'clock. That's a class schedule. Okay. So uh let's see. Hence the fact that the rowdyism that afflicted baseball, especially in the East, is all of Jewish origin. The razzing of the empire, the hurling of bottles, throwing bottles, ceaseless shouting of profane insults. That's what we got from there. You're welcome, sis. A yondabar in the Hebrew, which means you're welcome. So uh that's what you hear, in baseball when they throwing the bottles, they cursing loud. That's where we got that from. The Jews, the fake Jews. We got that from Amalek. Okay. So let's see. Uh a hurling of the bottles, the ceaseless shouting of profane insults, in spite of the fact that the loyalty of the players has to be constantly guarded because of the tendency of the individual Jewish gamblers to snuggle up to the individual players, in spite of the evidence that even the gate receipts have been tampered with. The managers and secretaries of baseball clubs have been obliged to keep their mouths closed, through the fear that they have not dared to say what they know. One manager said, "Good God, man, they'd boycott my park if I told you." They would boycott the park if he told what was really going on with all that gambling back there, all the snuggling up to the players, because they betting big time money on that, man. Big time. Okay. That's where you could thank them for that. You can think, you see it in football. They be, every time I don't even like, I like football. I like watching football, but I don't even like watching football too much sometimes because I know it's fixed. You know, basketball is fixed. All that stuff is fixed, man. And the Jews are behind, the fake Jews are behind all of that. You know what I mean? It's a damn shame that we got to deal with this type of wickedness. But as it states, like in Job 9:24 that we read, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges. If not he, then who is he? In other words, if it's not the white man, the Caucasian, then who is it? Who is that evil person dealing with everything? You understand? That's Esau. Esau is Edom. Esau is the father of Amalek, the Amalekites, the small hat people. He's the father of the Germans. He's the father of all the Caucasian people that you see walking this planet Earth. You understand? That's oppressing our people in the ghettos, in the barrios, and on the reservations. He's the father of them. You understand? Right. You know, Shalad is definitely fixed. Even boxing, you know, you got to look at these things, and understand who is the author of this confusion. Babylon's name is it means confusion. Okay. That's the meaning of Babylon, confusion, the Babel. The Lord changed the language because he knew of the evil that they would do. He said they would build that tower all the way up to heaven because the earth spoke one language. The story of, you read the story of Babylon in the book of Genesis, okay, at the beginning of the Bible. That's why the Lord confused the tongues, okay? So we need to look at these things and really see them for what they are. In this country, the Jewish problem, which we have hitherto had to face, is not a result of religious antipathy. Religiously, politically, and economically, the Jew has the same opportunity as everyone else. Okay? The Jewish problem here has merely a matter of social prejudice resulting from the extremely difficult task of amalgamating with great rapidity an enormous population, alien in race, culture, custom, and habit. Oh, that was a lot of words they put on. They put on us right now. Okay, so we'd have to look at the meanings of these words. I'm kind of going to drop that now because I only have 3 minutes left. Uh, it'll take me a little while to look at the meanings behind these words. So they're admitting that there's the Jewish problem in this earth, man. You know, at 287, man. Look at 287 and look at another one of the deeds beside the super mob stuff, kidnapping, drug dealing, and prostitution, and bootlegging, and extortion, and murders, and hits that they do. Okay, so I'm going to start at 286. On February 16th, Mordecai Levi, using a pseudonym, James Gutman, so he called himself James Gutman, but he really was a Jew, who he stated was a leader of the American Nazi Party, seeks a permit to hold a rally in Philadelphia, which, according to the permit requested, was a white power rally to show white masses unity of white race, to show the world niggers and Jews are cowards. The rally would propose to display swastikas, banners, Nazi uniforms, KKK paraphernalia, and swastika picket signs saying Hitler was right. Gas commie Jews, communists, right? Levi had his plans scuppered. However, when the local press were tipped off who James Gutman really was and ran a story with the headline, Nazi rally rouser really Jewish, was really Jewish. So he was a Nazi rally rouser, but he was really Jewish. See, that's what they like to do. They trained two sides of these rebel soldiers. They were I think they were the Pakistanis and Indians. They trained them both against each other. The Rothschilds started these wars, and once these wars to go through, they had the plan to have 3 world wars, as there's only 3 world wars in the Bible. The Bible has only 3 wars. Okay, it says the first woe woe means wars, means destruction. It says the first woe has passed. The first and second woe have passed. I'm paraphrasing. I will go to it, but I don't know. Let me see if I find. I'm gonna find it. The first two woes, okay? Because a lot of this, all of this has the plans of the Zionism and the plan for the one world order, which is coming. You see how Trump is acting. You see how he acts. Says, "Woe, the second woe has come." Let's see. Let me get it real quick. See if I can pull it up. The first woe has passed. Okay, this is in Revelation chapter 19 and verse 12. We're gonna go to Book of Revelation chapter 19 and verse 12. Okay, 19 and 12. Or is it 12:19? I might be. Give me a second here. Let's go to 12:19. I read that different. Wait a minute now. I done got stuck. Hold up. Oh, that's why. I mean, it's 9. So lucky. It's 9 and 12. One, this is Revelation, the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 12. Okay. Here we go. All right. Thawada says, all right. Thawada for attending class. I would have a good day at work. All right. One woe is past. That's World War One. And behold, there come two. That's World War Two. But it says, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. I was trying to find the one where it says, behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That's World War Three. World War Three is going to come real quick. Okay. That's if you got it, you can put it in the chat. Uh it's been a little minute, so I haven't got there yet. It's 11:15. It could be 11:15. Let's go to 11:15. See if I can find it there. Okay, on that 11:15. No, it's not that one. I know it's that one. But anyway, let's see if I can. There it is. I found it. Right. Okay. And 11, 15. Well, it keeps sending me to this. I'm having a little technical difficulties with this. So I'm just gonna leave it for you to look it up. Okay, Kana, you said it's 11:14 through 19. Okay. 11:14 through 19. I know it's somewhere around there. Okay, that's right. And Thawada says for showing me that. All right. So this is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. The second woe is past. and that's World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. World War III is going to come so quick that, we're not going to be prepared for it. We're going to be out here, doing what we do, having fun. The world is going to be doing what they do, having fun, marrying, and having all these ceremonies, celebrating Christmas or celebrating this coming Valentine's Day and all these things, the New Year and everything like that. And that third world war is going to be set right before us. We're going to know it's the third world war. Okay. And as it's going to be, we're going to look at Zechariah 14 and 12. Zechariah 14 and 12. And as it reads, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem, all the people that fought against us, all the people the Lord is going to smite, all the people that persecuted blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall be consumed away while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall consume away, which in their holes. Their tongues shall consume away in their mouth. That's fire. That is that's thermonuclear destruction. It melts your eyes. It melts your tongue. It makes your flesh fall off the bone, as if you was an oxtail in a pot or a piece of chicken in a pan. That's the if you look it up, that is the effects of thermonuclear destruction. It's going to be a nuclear war. The Third World War will be a nuclear war of fire that's going to destroy America, which is Babylon, which are the daughter of Babylon. America is the daughter of Babylon, which ought to be destroyed, as it's written in these scriptures, because of Amalek, because of Esau and Edom, because of the Edomites who control this world. You know that our oppressor controls this world. So with that, I'm going to end this class and I'm going to say shalom.